Welcome to episode 302 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I am welcoming finally a new guest. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs is here. How you doing, Brian? Glad to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. Sorry about all the times that things come up.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. We always manage. We got so many great guests, and these two guys here, including Ben Roethig. How you doing, Ben?
I am fantastic.
That is great to hear.
Last couple of days of this week before 7 straight days of film festival next week.
Oh, nice.
There you go. That I know you always look forward to that every year. And I always look forward to having Jeff Gamet here on the show. How you doing, Jeff?
I always look forward to getting to hang out with you, Dave.
Yeah.
Whether it's online or in person, it is always a treat.
It is spectacular. So we've got some good news this week. Beta, actually, they dropped Beta 2 for 17.5. We'll talk about that. We're going to actually talk a little bit about Brian because he is new to the show. And as I always do with new guests, we find out who they are and what they do and all that fun stuff. I'm sure many of you know who he is, but you may not. So we're going to do that. And I thought I'd had a couple topics, including about the whole stuff about emulators and iOS, as well as USB-C cables and a little bit of in touch with cord cutting and a lot of news. But like we always do, start off with the topics for this week. iOS 17.5 Beta 2 was released this week to developers and public beta. Good to see that they're continuing on with all the changes. A lot of it, of course, is app downloads from websites for the EU. There's the podcast widget now that you can be added to the home screen, the lock screen, mobile device management solutions are now able to enforce a beta version, which of course not able to do before. Of course, we did talk about Apple News Plus added a new daily word game called Quanterlies. Did you play yet, Ben?
I haven't, but I hope to steal my parents' iPads at some point during this week.
I hear the rules are similar to Fizzbin.
Okay.
All right.
But anything else you're seeing?
There's a subset of people out there that are laughing.
That's right. So, and a few other things, including they were seeing some code for iPad OS for the reference of a new Apple Pencil we've talked about. They're planning probably to release this in early May. So we've got a couple more weeks of some beta testing and checking that out and all that fun stuff. I've been beta testing. I just got it, as I mentioned last week. I have an iPhone 13 that I now can at my disposal to do beta testing on an iPhone. And of course, I still have my 2018 iPad Pro that I also run beta on. That's my two secondary devices. So, and Jeff still isn't getting his iPad on beta. I know that.
No, but I did finally find the charger. So,
so that's good. I'm about ready to send you a charger. I got 1 million of them.
So do
Jeff,
I.
take it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found the charger and what a surprise. There was a ton of chargers with the one that I was looking for. So I found a bunch of them.
There you go.
So yeah, I'll be able to get my old iPad back up on beta again.
Good. And Brian, you do not dabble in beta at all, right?
No, I don't dabble in beta, but I just look at some of the features that got released, and that podcast widget is nice. Apple really does seem to be paying a lot more attention to the podcast app and making improvements. And I think it was the last update with the transcripts that came out. Just nice improvements all around.
Yeah, seems like they're throwing a few things here. Also, just a brief mention, they did release the second beta for watchOS 10.5. Again, they usually don't have much to say when it comes to watchOS, so we just mentioned it. And they also have tvOS 17.5 was seeded as well. Again, nothing dramatic when it comes to any releases here. That really isn't much noticed. I've actually been running the beta on one of my Apple TVs, and so far it seems pretty solid here too. For those of you who have the Vision Pro, you have the Vision OS 1.2 was released as well, and there are a couple other things that of note when it comes to iOS 17.5 beta was the EU iPhone users downloading apps directly from websites are now able to do that as of this week. iPhone users located in the European Union are now able to directly download from the websites of Apple app developers without going through the App Store as an alternate marketplace. So we really have official ways of if some listeners here in the EU are listening, that I'd be interested to hear if anybody's out there who wants to tell us about it. Feedback at intouchwithios.com, how their experiences with being able to. That's going to be a strange thing. All these years of working in the App Store, that you can actually go on the outside. Don't you think, guys?
Yes, but I think most people won't.
Yeah,
They won't. They'll stay with App Store.
Yeah, they'll just stay with Apple's App Store, and I don't blame them. It's kind of a Wild West in the App Store.
Yeah, it is,
but it's way worse outside.
That is true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Agreed.
But I mean, to be perfectly honest, the people who will venture outside are used to this because basically they want their iPhone or eventually iPad to be a lot closer to the Mac.
Oh, sure.
This is how you do things on the Mac. You have multiple app stores and you can download apps directly from the web.
That is true. So, if anybody is doing it, I'd be interested to hear about it, but feel free to drop us a line and let us know. So, like all new guests that come on the show for the first time here on Touch with iOS, I always like to find out a little bit more about our new guest, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. Again, we've known each other for quite a while. We met through Macstock and through Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner, and you've been a bit of the fanboy of Apple. And tell us a little about yourself as far as what makes you tick with Apple and some of your devices. I always like to find out what devices you have.
Oh yeah, all right. So my first use of Apple devices actually goes way back. A couple of devices, the Mac Classic. So growing up as a kid, that was something we had as a family and something that I got to use a lot. And then at school, they had the Apple TGS and played a lot of, edutainment games and loved, Oregon Trail and what was there's like a Klondike version of Oregon Trail that was similar. And what was it? Number Crunchers, all these, fun games of the past that I used to love playing. So a lot of fun with those devices. Over time, just continued with a lot of Apple devices. My first computer that I bought myself, that wasn't like a family computer. I remember earning money at my part-time job and saving up, and I got, I think it was the G4 Cube. I think was my first.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah,
that was good times.
That was cool. Yeah, it was a cool device. But I had eventually got the old G4 iBook. I had that. And then I took a little bit of a break from some of the Macintosh side of Apple and it held off for a little while. But in the interim time, I had at the time I couldn't afford the standard iPod, but I got when the iPod Shuffle came out. It was the one that was like a gum stick.
The gum stick. I had that.
Had that one dangling from my neck. It doubled as a flash drive and nice little MP3 player. So I had that for a while. With regards to phones, let's see, my first iPhone was the iPhone 3G was the first one that I picked up. Then I went iPhone 4, so I skipped the GS. And then, let's see, it was a little while. I think the next one after that might have been the iPhone SE, the original SE. And then, upgraded to, I guess after that was the newer SE. I think it was the version 3. And then now I have iPhone 13 mini and still rocking that and still holding up pretty well. And I think I will be upgrading this year in the fall.
Yeah, I think those you mini users have given up. I don't know if our friend Brittany Smith's going to give up.
She's not giving up.
She's holding down for dear life. She probably bought extra ones just in case. But a lot, it seems like some of the folks that have the mini are starting to, they're getting a little old. His devices, like you put new batteries in it, but they're a little slow. And I mean, 13 might be okay for a while.
Yeah.
You said the 13, right? You had the 13.
Yeah, 13 mini. Yeah.
And do you dabble in iPad or Apple TV at all, and Apple Watch?
I do, yeah. So I did eventually come back and purchase Macs. So I do. I'm using a 2020 iMac 27-inch, and then I do have a M2 Air. And with regard to the watch, I'm using a Apple Watch Series 6. But
it works well.
Yeah, I've really been looking at that Ultra too, though. So we'll see if
It's a nice.
And I'm considering, if when the, whatever the Ultra 3 or whatever comes out, I'm thinking, maybe the Ultra 2, because it is a little more expensive. Maybe that might be a little more discounted at the time and still last for several years.
Yeah.
And then I have one Apple TV, and
so you're all in with that.
I'm all in, yeah.
And you're an educator, right? You work in education, and
yep,
that helps you too with that as well, I'm sure.
It does. Most of my Apple use is personal. We do on the at our particular school where we're using Windows devices, but our work phones are the iPhone SE. I think the second series of But yeah, so mostly the personal stuff on the Macs. Yeah, an Apple product.
All right, great. Well, glad to get everybody to know what makes you tick with Apple. That's why we always have folks here who are passionate about the stuff here. That's why we do what we do here every week. So let's go on and move on to the next topic: emulators. I'm not a gamer by any means, but I know we have a few people here on the panel that are, and Apple did. Interestingly enough, decided to allow for some of these game emulators, including the Delta emulator. I know there was short-lived when they had an NES one in there, but I think that got removed pretty quickly. And Ben, I know you're the gamer, or you know a lot of this stuff. What's been your thoughts so far on these emulators on iOS?
First, Yahoo.
Okay, I figured.
Honestly, it's one of the missing features that gamers have wanted for a while. Apple's pretty heavy-handed pruning of the App Store, according to what they want, has left my mouth doesn't want to work today, has left certain categories of apps rather wanting. But I have to say, from what I've seen so far, the first one to actually stay on the App Store is a very, very good emulator.
And this is Delta.
Yeah, Delta. I mean, this has been Riley Tezitz. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his last name, but it's been Riley's bread and butter over in the jailbreak side for years. And it shows by how extremely polished this is.
Okay. Yeah, it's got supports a ton of game systems in NES and Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, Game Boy, which is always a crowd pleaser. It's a lot of on the Nintendo area, and then controller supports, and this is absolutely free, which is crazy. I'm amazed that they're offering this as a free option on an iOS device. Is it? I believe is it available? It looks like it's available for the Mac as well. Probably at least but it is designed for iPhone.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can be run on the Mac.
Can imagine that the experience is really good because it is an iPhone app. So
yeah, so that's going to look pretty terrible on the Mac, but
I would think.
Kind of hoping that it's eventually. I'm hoping eventually there will be iPad and/or Mac versions native.
Yeah, if they come up with an iPad app, at least it'd be a little bit of a better experience on a Mac. But
Yeah.
So you can see. Have you looked at all this? Any of this at all, Jeff? Is there anything that caught your eye with all this emulator talk?
I've been following this because I find it interesting. Also because I'm still just want regular Tetris. None of the crazy, crappy,
goofy,
and shitified Tetrises that they've been pumping out over the years. Just Tetris. And with an emulator, I can do that. Just like get the Game Boy Tetris and call it good. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, the original Game Boy black and white Tetris.
Yeah, I would be totally happy with that. It's awesome. I've also been following the drama around Delta getting released.
Yeah.
The other guy that took the Delta code and just basically reskinned it and released it before Delta came out. That's been pulled. It's gone.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, it sucks that someone did that to him. But then also sucks that, well, he had been working with Apple to make sure that he was ready for the green light on being able to put this on the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
They were aware what was going on, and yet they still threw this other guy's knockoff version full of trackers and crap up there, and then had to pull it after the community just got all up in arms.
Yeah.
How about you, Brian? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was looking at the emulator, and I personally don't use one. I do play a fair amount of games, though. A lot of those games from my childhood, playing on some of those Nintendo systems, but more recently playing on Xbox. And I was looking at the titles and what video game systems are supported, with Delta and a lot of these Nintendo branded systems. It made me think about the marketing that each of these companies are kind of doing, because, from a, gray to legal way of using these emulators, I believe you're only supposed to seek out, backing up ROMs of things that you personally own, and
yeah. And officially the game companies are against even that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's even that's kind of gray, of backing up your own software. But it's interesting because Nintendo has a reputation of each of their generations of systems re-releasing these games. And as Jeff had mentioned, sometimes they're not the original version. You don't get that original 1989 Tetris. Mm-hmm. It's, Tetris something or other, and a flavor of Tetris. But Nintendo seems to have their strategy of, no, you pay again, new system, you can pay again for software that you played on your previous system. Whereas it seems like more on the Xbox, it's this promotion of backward compatibility of utilizing your software from previous editions and of hardware. And it's interesting how that's going, because it makes me think about, not that anyone would ever download, a ROM of a game they don't personally own. But,
right.
We think about, the days of Napster and downloading MP3 files prior to iTunes. And when iTunes, a legitimate, place popped up and 99 cents a song, reasonable price for what it was, there was a lot of people who said, because this legal way is available, I'm not going to jump over and keep doing it off of Napster, or it's like, and instead do, pay for it. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting, I thought. And what was the popular games? Yeah.
Yep. And I will also note there is a Commodore 64 emulator too that was released the same day.
Nice.
I think got to get Mattel and Television. I used to love playing that game.
The Atari 2600.
Good times.
Yep.
Good times with the games. So yeah, check it out. I got links in the show notes here about the Delta, the video game emulator, and article from Mac Stories that talks about we'll change the App Store forever. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see how this goes when it comes to that. So next topic, I want to talk a little bit about cables and plugs. Macworld did a great article here. Credits Simon Jerry as the editor and writer that wrote this up, and I thought it'd be a good thing to kind of talk through getting you whatever the best USB-C charging cables that are for the iPhone, the iPad, and of course the Mac. As we know, USB-C is pretty much becoming the standard. It's pretty hard these days. I mean, if those of you who have the newer iPhone, which would be the iPhone 15, it's all USB-C now. So my wife just got an iPhone 15, so this was all new because the Lightning cable has been hers forever. So now I've had to retrain her on how to. We had no, you got to have USB-C, and then of course the rest of the family still has the older iPhone, so I think we're gonna have to be a 2-cable family for now. And I think that's pretty typical these days when it comes for Lightning versus USB-C. But the Lightning cable doesn't have as much data transfer speed, so it is a lot slower than what a USB 4 Thunderbolt cable, like with the Type-C connector, which will put you at 40 gigabit, whereas Lightning is only going to be about 0.48 gigabit. So And the 15 is amazing, as we've talked about before, as far as how fast it is using a really high speed cable. Different types of cables, as we said. You've got to be USB-A to Lightning. That's going to probably be about the slowest cable you have there. Then you have a C to an A cable that's been coming with iPhones for quite a while. Then the C to C, of course, that we use now. And then many of these cables, they are backwards compatible with Thunderbolt. Then you can go Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt, and it still probably would work. Chargers, they've really changed a lot. You got the new USB charger that Apple sells, and that's, I believe, 20. I think that's still 20 watts, or it might be 30 watts now. So it's got a little bit higher outputs. So just be aware of what your cables are and what they're all about when it comes to that. Just a good tip in knowing is that USB-C cables can carry a minimum of 60 watts, and some support 100 watts of charging. Even some of the new Thunderbolt 4 cables can go up to 240 watts. I bought one of those really high-speed cables. And that it's a pretty solid cable, and the data transfer rate is just insane. Even through it, using it on an iPad Pro or an iPhone to transfer data. Really good, especially for photographers who are taking a lot of pictures. They want to offload using their external drive, and got to have one of those cables. And boy, it just flies when you're using these stuff. So, and then the same thing with the chargers for the MacBook Pro. Like the MacBook Air. I mentioned, Brian. You mentioned earlier you have the MacBook Air M2. I picked up the M3. So, and it comes with that smaller square brick with the two cables, or you can buy the little higher wattage one. And those are some nice chargers. And the nice thing about the Air is it charges pretty quickly with those adapters, and getting those going here. So definitely is interesting. Bring your guys' take on this, Jeff. Cables. What's the cables that you like and that you like to use? I mean, Apple cables are very good, but Anchor and a lot of others are out there too.
Yeah, the cables that I go to, if it's not an Apple branded cable, Anchor, RadTech, and OWC.
Yeah, OWC makes the best. They're great cables. In fact, they're selling. In fact, I can put my box here. Hold on.
Because of course, it's right within reach.
It's right here. I just bought a box of 20 of these. These are 2-meter cables. During I think it was, I don't know if it was Black Friday, or they were selling these for 88 cents.
Oh yeah.
These are 2-meter cables. These I just bought a whole bunch more because my mother-in-law as well as my wife have the iPhone 15 now, so I better buy some cables because there's a glut of Lightning ones, but this, if you look at it, it's just like showing on camera here. This is just basically like an Apple cable. It's white, and it's really built well. And this one, I think these were like $3 compared to 20 or 30 for a 2-meter cable. So but you definitely don't buy them. We've talked about this a million times on this show. Do not buy your gas station cables.
Do not buy gas station cables ever. And well, now it's even more important to not buy gas station cables, because USB-C as a connector, as a protocol, as just a cable in general, it is a hot mess. Unless you know what you're getting, you have no idea what you're getting.
Yeah, well, I mean,
exactly.
USB-C is a connector. It can be anything from USB 2 to Thunderbolt 4.
Right, and how much power can it pass through? I mean, it varies from cable to cable, and the crappy cables, they may not be passing the voltage through or the wattage through at the rate you're expecting, and you can damage your equipment.
Exactly.
I mean, and it can get so confusing. Like I noticed in the Macworld article, by the way, that I think this is a good article. So,
yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So they talk about the Anchor 333 USB-C cable, 10 foot long, and they have a photo of the Anchor cable. And here's how tough it is. They have a photo of a 100-watt cable, yet they say it's a 60-watt cable in their spec listing. Now, I believe that cable actually is a 60-watt cable, but which means they have the wrong photo. But most people won't even realize it's the wrong photo. They didn't even realize it's the wrong photo. That's how confusing this can get. But now I want a red cable.
Yeah, I see that Anchor red cable. That is cool, 10 feet too. So, Brian, we'll bring you in on this cables. I mean, I'm sure like all of us here, you have mounds of cables everywhere, like all of us do. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with everything mentioned before, and I'm kind of in that in between stage right now because I've got the iPad. I do have an iPad Air, and it uses USB-C, and so many different devices. Plug in with USB-C, but I'm still with the iPhone 13 mini. I'm still using the Lightning cable for a little while too. So I am kind of in that in between. But yeah, I agree. Whenever I need a cable besides the one that it comes with the Apple device, I always look for Anchor OWC.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think lately I've spent way too much money on OWC, especially when I'm crazy buying those $99 docks that they were selling. That was originally $300 at one point, or $99. So
I'm curious how many of you guys tend to, when you need to charge your iPhone, though, do you tend to mostly charge with the induction charging, or are you still plugging in? Now that
I have a MagSafe.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to take it on my trip. I forgot I have a Belkin one I just bought because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. That's on my bedside now. Mm-hmm. And then I have an Anchor one that's really nice too. That's going to go with me on the trip that I'm going on this weekend. And I've got the Apple MagSafe one too. I got everything. Crazy. but I mean, I do find that the MagSafe charging is more efficient and quicker, and I seem to like it. But sometimes I will plug in, direct to USB too.
Yeah.
USB-C.
Yeah, I'm all induction at home. In the car, I'm still plugging in with a cable because everything is already there and has been for years.
Right.
And I'm not the only person that would be using it. And not everyone that might be riding in my car can do MagSafe. So just leave it as a cable there.
Yeah. So, any last, you want to throw in there anything else, Ben?
Still 100% Lightning cable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have the 12, right?
12 Pro Max, yeah.
Yep. So that's not wrong. Still a great phone, and like I said, I think the Lightning is going to be around for quite a few years to come here for anywhere near that. So check out this article. I also have links in the show notes to some of these cables from Amazon. Be sure to click those links because we always like with our affiliate links, it helps the show out as well. So to check some of these cables out because there's some great choices in here of some of the cables they talked about here. So, but go ahead and check that out. The next topics I wanted to touch on is a little bit about in touch with cord cutting. There's been I found a couple of stories here I wanted to talk about really quick. Now, we've been talking about cord cutting in hotels, and it's becoming much easier using AirPlay. It looks like they're finally starting to be rolled out to different hotels across North America and the U.S. And what AirPlay at hotels is going to be, they're actually setting up in the hotel rooms that it's a simple AirPlay connection, so you don't have to bring your own device. So many of us would travel, as us Apple geeks as we are, bring our own Apple TVs and plug in into the TVs and stuff. So now you're going to be able to AirPlay everything from your iPad or your iPhone right at the hotel level because the TV technologies are starting to improve in hotels. I think hotels still have a long way to go. It looks like the first brand of hotels is going to be IHG, which is actually Holiday Inn, and shameless plug for Max Sock, but that's the hotel where we're going to be staying at in July. So hopefully that hotel has it at some point. So not that we're going to be spending a lot of time in the hotel room anyway, but so it's definitely great to see that the availability is happening to different locations. And of course, you're going to have in the AirPlay in hotels, they say that 10S or later, and then running 17.3 or later is only going to work for this as far as that goes. You guys, any other thoughts on this? I think this is great. I hope to see it expand to a bit more of the bigger chains.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I honestly thought this would take longer to roll out.
Me too. Yeah. Agree.
I love the idea of being able to easily stream your own content from wherever. Yet another way to avoid paying ridiculous movie rental costs in hotels.
Yeah, I do have a theory there.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, they know nobody's watching pay-per-view anymore. And
those adult movies.
yeah, but honestly, for them, they it's easier for them to have you just cast to the TV via AirPlay than fumbling around trying to hook up your own devices to the HDMI ports.
Mm-hmm.
True. Oh yeah, I mean, trying to fumble behind those TVs and try to find the HDMI connection if you have your own cable. People do that all the time.
I always travel with my own HDMI cable.
Yeah. So the more to come on that. It's going to be interesting to see. Next cord cutting story was about Plex. Plex is now tops over 1,100 free live channels worldwide. It makes it the largest free streaming service. They announced that this week that they have that many channels, 1,100, streaming through ad-supported streaming worldwide. And it's basically the largest ad-supported streaming service in the world by number of channels. And Plex, if anybody's not familiar with, Plex has not only streaming, but you also can create your own Plex server. You have access to movies and all kinds of other great content. I think many of us here, I have a Plex server I run as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our friends do, and we share our Plex server access and get to watch some movies that you may have or TV shows and such. So this is great to see. I mean, I think that a lot of the free tiers of these streaming services, Plex and as well as Pluto TV and Tubi and number of the other free services. If you're okay with dealing with ads, I mean, there's so much great content on those. I sometimes catch some of the things on those services, and it's like, wow, I haven't seen this for a long time, like an old TV show or a lot of the old channels and all that stuff. What do you think, Ben, on this?
I mean, I have a parent who is still very much into linear TV. If you're like this, it's basically like having free cable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from you guys, Jeff?
I am so not into linear TV, but you nailed it. There have been a few times, though, where there's something that I've been looking to watch that would be on just like another live channel, and I'm a cord cutter, and Plex gave me the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad they've got all this content.
Yeah. That said, as much as the Apple TV as a platform has many advantages, live TV integration is not one of them. It's one of those where it's very much behind the competition.
Yeah. Ironically, the way I get live content through my Apple TV is because I have the Plex app on my Apple TV.
Right. And it tends to work pretty well. I mean, and then especially some of the streaming channels too. But if you got your own content, that's great too. But building a Plex server it's quite a bit of work. I mean, and of course we legally obtain all of those videos, right? And then we put them on our Plex servers, and so ripping DVDs that you own, that's a lot of work. And especially you have to bypass the video protection and all that to get it to be a file. It's a lot of work to do it, but it's fun. I think it's more of a fun here too. Brian, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I haven't used Plex myself, but this gives me some ideas of checking it out. I've used is it in not the server part of it, but just the enjoyment of his channels,
the streaming part.
Is it kind of like a Pluto TV in that way?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you say 1,100 channels. Maybe 15 of them are probably of any worthwhile, in my opinion.
Sure.
But there might be some that others like more than others. I mean, Pluto TV's got a pretty good amount of stuff too, but you're finding these, like I know CBS is good at putting all their news on there, and ABC is as well, and NBC, CNN. They have derivatives of their channels that are free. That's free content. I think the NFL Network has been throwing on some stuff on there lately, and so they got some interesting stuff. But again, it's the way streaming is changing, and then you got over the air channels are looking at the higher speed 3.0 over the air, and there's just so much. I'm going to go down that rat hole, but there's just so much content out there now that I've got YouTube TV, and I've been very very much enjoying it. I'm not regretting switching one bit away from Comcast. But yeah, it's good stuff. Another interesting thing I found here was switching to broadband. I wrote up a report that I'm trying to put together for work when it comes to broadband and what we can get for the best deal, and what can be expensed and all that stuff. But being able to know what you're going to be switching to and having what's called nutrition labels is going to be really a great thing here. So it'll actually break it down to showing the download speeds, the monthly costs, and more. The FCC in the United States will require ISPs to begin displaying this information on their service in a very clear and a concise manner. Hallelujah. The format will be detail resembles like nutrition labels, so you can, like you see on food boxes, but instead of calories and sugars, it's going to be FCC's broadband labels that'll show off the monthly costs and how it's there. And there's a link in the article showing you what the consumer label is going to look like, which is great. I mean, they're actually showing a label sample that looks like a food label.
Yeah.
And that's great. I think this was well overdue here. And so you have more transparency, more rules. This is so important because I get so tired of it. I got so tired of it. I switched to AT&T fiber when I got it when it was available, and no frills. I know what I'm getting. I pay $80 a month and I get 1 gig down, 1 gig up. That's it. I don't even think about it. So what do you think, Ben? This is something that I think was just well overdue.
Oh, yeah. Traditionally, the telecom industry, especially when it came to traditional internet, has relied on two things: monopolies and being far less than transparent. Well, with between fiber and 5G based internet, well, yep, they have lots of competition now. Now, the other part about it, well, they now have to be transparent the way other companies like the fiber companies and T-Mobile have.
Right.
There's a reason they fought this, because this is very good for the consumer.
Yeah, for sure. Any thoughts, Jeff?
Oh, yes. First, Ben nailed it.
I thought so. He did.
But yeah, the whole thing with having options and understanding what those options are is really important. And like for me, when I moved outside of the city of Boulder into Longmont, so, I'm like practically where I was living, but just, different government there, municipal broadband. And I knew that I would just want to switch to the municipal broadband instead of using Comcast. But having something like this would have been great, because then it would have given me the numbers and not just the emotional part of I want out of this. Of course, I did get the numbers, but it wasn't as easy to get. Also, man, Ajit Pai did so much to try and really screw over customers for internet access when he was at the FCC, and it's great to see that we're finally getting back some of the things that he took from us. So yeah, I'm happy to see this, and I'm happy to see the other changes that we'll be getting over time that are pro-consumer.
Absolutely. Final words from you, Brian.
Yeah, when I saw this, it reminded me of something, and I couldn't remember the name of it, so I just looked it up. It was the Dodd-Frank Consumer Protection Act that came in 2010, and it reminded me when I was thinking those nutrition labels and the easy to read, consumer friendly information to be able to comparison shop. And it reminded me like with the credit cards, when the credit card bill comes and it says, you can pay off, the card using the minimal amount, and it takes so many decades to pay off. And then, or you can pay, a few extra dollars and it's much, much less time. It's just that easy to read, consumer friendly information that, puts a lot more ability for the consumer to be able to understand and take actions that they want.
Yeah, for sure. Then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about this was released last week, and of course I bought it. It's the Roku new Pro Remote 2 with backlit buttons, the USB-C, and there's new buttons, but is it worth upgrading? Well, it does have programmable buttons as well as it does have the home button to get navigation much easier. And they put the volume control on the side of the remote, which was kind of strange.
That's the way
because
Roku
I'm used
does
to having
it.
Oh,
yeah, Roku.
that's awful. That's a right-handed remote, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm lefty.
Mhm.
So I have to go with I got to thumb it to do it, and then it's got the the voice control where you can push. That's the second button there and there. So I'm showing, and is it worth upgrading? Well, it was only $30. That's why I did it, because it wasn't too terribly expensive. But compared to, I mean, it looks almost exactly like the original remote. I've just got the basic Roku 4K, and it again, Apple TV's my baby. I don't use. I just have the Roku as a secondary device. I mean, Roku does have the Roku channel, and they have a lot of other content that sometimes is interesting to look at. But overall, is it a remote that I really would want to get? I don't know. It is rechargeable, so it does recharge, and you can plug it in with USB-C, which is good. So, but if you're not a Roku user, of course, it's kind of pointless. But check it out. I think it was something just interesting to see, and it's not bad. You guys got any thoughts?
Well, first, for those who have a Roku branded TV and are watching intently, it will not work with your TV. Only Roku branded devices.
So if Roku's built in, you can't use it.
Nope.
So if it's a television that's actually branded as a Roku television,
yeah. What if it's branded Roku?
Then I would assume this would work.
Yeah,
possibly.
I'm not sure.
But the more we talk about this, the less exciting it sounds.
That's right.
Dave, I hate to be the one to tell you, but you might have spent $30 you should have kept.
Probably. I took one for the team.
You did. You did.
I've done that before. That's okay. I'll probably do it again. So links in the show notes about this. So let's go and move on to some of the news we have this week. The Apple had a big predictive emoji bug that was in 17.5 beta after this outrage. Predictive emoji turned off when typing in Jerusalem. If you were on X this weekend, you missed out on this latest phone outage. So it's getting a little on the political side here. But if you would, when the word Jerusalem was typed, the user using the stock keyboard, one of the emoji suggestions was the Palestinian flag, which, okay, that's not so good. So Apple did quickly respond in declaring the emoji was the result of an iOS 17.4.1 bug that affected the predictive text, but it's unclear what caused it. So in other words, were affected as well, but Apple had fixed in the latest 17.45 beta. So is it still a problem? I don't even want to try it. But,
no.
So yeah, just beware. I don't know if you type the word Jerusalem very often, but interesting bug I found. What do you guys think?
This is very terrible timing for this bug. Very terrible timing.
Very much so.
Yeah, timing, bad optics there.
Yeah,
but this is a bug, and being outraged over something that is obviously not intentional. It's a bug in an incredibly complicated operating system, and weird stuff's going to pop up, and it's going to take a lot of users playing with things to figure out where the weird problems are. Yeah. So I can appreciate someone being upset about this. At the same time, it's a bug. By the time 17.5 is publicly available and not available as a beta, it will be fixed. It's going to be okay. But yeah, bad timing for those optics there.
Yeah. So just be aware of it. Just going to move on from this topic. Interesting to see that the Vision Pro is starting to see some love. Microsoft does bring OneNote to the Apple Vision Pro, but there is a key limitation with it. Word and Excel were already available in the Vision Pro at launch, but now Microsoft has expanded the app with an earlier than expected release to its note-taking app, OneNote. Microsoft has committed to have all Microsoft 365 apps being available on the Vision Pro and launch, and it concentrated on its main apps, of course, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Teams. Oh my God, I don't imagine how to be interacting with Teams. That now the OneNote will have make a use of an infinite canvas of spatial computing, and it will be able to appear side by side with other great apps and be able to do multitasking. But however, the biggest limitation is it's only for personal accounts. If Apple's been really pushing to try to sell this product to the business, the enterprise, and
why would they do that? I mean,
I don't
Microsoft,
understand.
not Apple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Microsoft. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't make sense either. I mean, that's the biggest bulk of their users on OneNote is enterprise customers, especially I mean, enterprise as since I work in that world, obviously they have to test it. They have to make sure that it's secure. Is it not going to be something that's going outside of our walls of the Microsoft 365 security? So interestingly enough, maybe Microsoft wasn't satisfied for security. I'm thinking maybe.
Okay, that would make sense, but at the same time, holy crap! Get OneNote on Vision Pro. That's like a perfect platform for this.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna be. I mean, again, I've been saying this all along. I really enjoyed. I think all of us. I think most of us here did a demo. And it's an amazing device. There's no question about it, but it's version 1.0.
Yeah,
folks. So I think I'd be waiting for 2.0 to see where we go from there with this device. But it's really cool, I must say. Brian, you did try it. You did the demo too, right, on Vision Pro?
Yeah, I did. I just looking at this article, I could just imagine how amazing it would be to be able to utilize such a piece of software in that environment. And for them not to
take notes.
Yeah.
The corporate or education for that matter. And you said you guys use, I don't know if you guys use OneNote in the education market, but it is a great tool to take notes. So
it is.
Much else we could say about that. For those of you, we continue to talk about Apple Sports. The Sports app continues to update. They just now updated it this week to be ready for the NBA and the NHL playoffs. And then Apple says that fans will be able to now follow every matchup with added details on each series and more. And they hadn't noticed any immediate changes in the app after updating it to the new version from when they updated for MLB, the baseball. So they've got across the span here. It looks like Apple's pretty committed to this app and wants to really get into the sports world. What do you think, Ben?
I think it came just in time to see Kobe White completely go off last night for the Bulls as they shellacked the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in tournament. But I mean, we're in the spring. The spring is playoff time for both the NHL and the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, I want to have your thoughts about this. I know it's important to you.
I stay up at night worrying about which sports ball is going to do the one thing where they get the points. And okay, despite the fact that I am not into spectator sports, the fact that Apple is continually adding more content into their sports app, of course that's a good thing. This is big money. You want people using your streaming platform, you need to have sports there for them. And I think Apple is doing a good job of adding in new content as each season for the different sports things ramps up, so that whatever it is that you're interested in will be there by the time it's a thing. So good for them.
Excellent. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, the Apple Sports app is one of my favorite go-to sports apps. It's quick. You can get that depending on the information you're looking for. It can be very, very useful. If you're looking for quick standings, play-by-play, if you're not able to physically watch the game, you can catch those play-by-play results, things of that nature, score updates, things like that. Well, I should say score updates while you're using the app. Ironically, unless it came up with this update, I believe you still need to use the Apple TV app is the one that actually connects to giving your home screen updates when you're so I'm waiting for that, but it doesn't have ads. It's so clean. It's a nice clean interface. It's quick. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. It's a great app. I need to use it more. So definitely going to be continue on to be a really good app for sports for those who are into that. I want to touch a little bit about Apple TV. There's a lot of new stuff coming from the shows and series and movies, all kinds of new content coming. It seems like every week they have a long list of stuff that's been coming out. So it's good to see some of the shows that are being updated, notably like say Acapulco, I guess it's season 3. That seemed to be a popular show. Dark Matter is a series based on the novel Dark Matter, an alternate universe thriller about a man who is abducted, drugged, and wakes up in reality, which he's made different choices in the past. Ooh.
The trailer to that looks phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm happy to see Trying was a good show too. That wasn't bad too, but looking forward to see some of these other shows. I know a couple other shows For All Mankind, I think is going to have a spin-off series, I guess. And and then the season 5 is called Star City.
Yep. That's
coming out. So there's a lot of good stuff on Apple TV Plus, and I think it's well worth what we pay for it on all this stuff. So check it out. Make sure you are subscribing and taking a look at all that content. Anything stand out for you guys? What's coming soon on Apple TV Plus?
Well, I was just looking at that article about For All Mankind season 5, and I love For All Mankind. It's one of my favorite shows on Apple TV. And seeing this Star City spinoff, I guess from the perspective of the Soviets, it's going to be interesting. And I'm really curious on when they pick up that perspective, historically, because, each season of For All Mankind is kind of like a different decade, further and further getting closer to present day. But I wonder if it'll be, in line with, let's say, season 5 of For All Mankind is the same era as season 1 of Star City, or if they'll just go back to the 1960s. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah.
It is. So check it out. And it's definitely going to be a great time to watch all kinds of good content on there. So, but before we go, I want to make sure we talk about MacStock. MacStock Conference and Expo is coming. It's 84 days away. Holy cow. That's July 12th, 13th, and 14th. It's in Crystal Lake, Illinois, outside of Chicago. We've had so many great things to have as far as speakers and all kinds of other stuff and fun. And there's going to be workshops, and they've changed all this other great stuff. And we did have a couple of announcements of some more speakers. And I must say, Brett Terpstra has been on this week again. But this guy, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, he got a slot. He's going to be speaking at MacStock. Are you excited about that, huh, Brian?
I certainly am. I can't wait. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So, and then Michael DJ Eisenberg is going to speak. Of course, Jeff and I are both going to be speaking. So it's definitely going to be an interesting thing, and we'll see where that goes. So, and yeah, come and check it out. I mean, the link's in the show notes for MacStock Conference and Expo, and I think it's going to be a great time to check it out. So, Jeff, we're still working on our topics, right?
I like to think of it as we're working on polishing our presentations. We're at the early stages of polishing our presentations.
Yeah.
Very, very early stages.
It is. It's going to be really a great thing to work with. And we're going to have a lot of fun. So, but with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week, because we just had a great time today. This was a great show. I really appreciate everybody being here, and definitely good to go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon at intouchwithios, at techhangout.social. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is our Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel. Shout out to Cletus and many of the others that were out on the channel this week and the chat room. That's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch the current and past live streams and also listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped in that magazine. The link is in our show notes. And you can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts with transcripts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website, which is intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us is on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon, which is at DaveG65 and Mastodon.cloud. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, thank you so much for being here. It was so great to have you as a first-time guest. Where can people find you?
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And once again, I really appreciate you having me on your show. The best place to find me is probably Mastodon. I'm at Brian8944 at Mastodon.cloud.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Ben Roethig, always a pleasure having you on the show. And where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me on your social media of choice at Ben Roethig. On Tuesday nights, you can find me on Mac Voices Live with Mr. Chuck Joyner. And on Thursday and Fridays, you can find me on the British Tech Network on the Big and Mac shows.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet. So great to have you. Where can people find you?
As always, it's great to be here. You'll be able to find me in July at Macstock.
That's for sure.
And I'm looking forward to getting to spend time in real space with all of you. It's going to be wonderful. Until then, social media, J Gamet. I'm active on Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. Then for shows, on Tuesdays, Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live. Then here on your show, Dave, In Touch with iOS on Thursdays. Then, as Ben so eloquently put it, the British Tech Network. Thursdays on the Big Show, Fridays on the Mac Show, and then also Brian Chaffin and I do the Context Machine.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, so much. Appreciate you being here. And thank you for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed the show this week. We enjoy doing it, and we will go ahead and talk to you again soon.